My neighbor's apartment was sealed for over 20 years. Last Friday, they opened it. I wish they hadn't. I won't give my name or the city. Let's just say it's an old, working-class neighborhood in a city that's seen better days. The kind with old brick buildings crammed together, streets barely wide enough for one car to squeeze through. I'd lived in this particular building pretty much my whole life, or at least as long as I can remember. It was an old walk-up, definitely older than me, older than my dad. Cracked plaster, stairs worn unevenly, lights that flickered on their own schedule, and water pressure that was more of a suggestion than a guarantee. Standard stuff for the area. The building had its quirks, things we'd all gotten used to. You'd hear odd thumps in the night. The hallway light on our floor would sometimes flare bright, then dim for no reason. The cat belonging to a woman on the second floor would occasionally hiss at one specific spot on the third floor landing and refuse to pass, you know. The kind of stuff people chalk up to the house settling, or old wiring, or whatever explanation lets you sleep at night. Life's got enough real scares, right? But all those little oddities were one thing. Apartment 4B, directly across the narrow hall from ours, was something else entirely. That apartment, it was sealed. Sealed shut since before my family moved in. We're talking over 20 years, locked with a heavy-duty, rust-caked padlock on a thick hasp bolted into the door and frame. The wooden door itself was weathered, paint peeling, showing the scars of time and damp, but it was firmly closed, and nobody ever went near it. When we first moved in, my dad, God rest his soul, asked the old man who owned the building then about 4B why was it locked up tight, not rented out like all the others. The landlord at the time was elderly even then, but still sharp. His face clouded over and his voice, usually gentle, became stern. That apartment is my business, son, and I don't keep it locked to rent it out. You mind yours. That was enough for no one in the building to ever bring it up with him again. The old landlord himself was a bit of a recluse, lived in the ground floor unit, rarely spoke, barely seen. When he got too frail, his son started coming by to look after him, and eventually the building. But even the son clammed up if you asked about 4B. That apartment was a source of silent, creeping dread for all of us on the fourth floor, especially us, right opposite. Why? The sounds that came from it, not loud, startling noises. No, these were quiet, faint, but persistent and deeply unsettling. Sometimes you'd hear a soft scratching like a trapped animal from the other side of the door. Other times, a low, broken murmuring like someone whispering just below the threshold of understanding. And then there was the sound that unnerved me the most, a faint electrical hum or a deep, resonant thrumming like a massive, distant engine. A sound that had no business being in a sealed apartment we were pretty sure had its utilities disconnected decades ago. These sounds weren't constant. They had a strange rhythm, usually late at night, or in those dead quiet hours just before dawn when the city finally holds its breath. At first, we told ourselves it was just sound carrying from other apartments, through the old walls. But over time, focusing, we became certain. The source was 4B beyond the sounds, other things were linked to that apartment. The patch of hallway floor directly in front of its door, for instance, was always colder than the rest of the landing. Even in the height of summer, when the building felt like an oven, if you stood there, you'd feel a distinct, unsettling chill, like a pocket of winter air. The stray cats that sometimes snuck into the building to sleep on the stairs, they'd never go near that spot. They'd approach, then stop, arch their backs, and either turn around or skirt wide around it, hurrying past as if spooked. My mom would always mutter a prayer and sprinkle salt in front of our own door, sometimes reciting scripture a little louder when the sounds from 4B were more noticeable. My dad tried to reassure us, saying, "It's just your imagination, or probably rats or old pipes," even though he knew, and we knew, that was nonsense. No rats could make those specific sounds, and a sealed apartment wouldn't have active pipes behaving like that. As I got older into my teens and then my 20s, 4B became more of an obsession. The curiosity was eating me alive. What was in there? Why was the original landlord and then his son so adamant about keeping it sealed? And those damned sounds, I started paying closer attention, trying to decipher them. Was the whispering in any recognizable language? Was the scratching rhythmic? Did the hum fluctuate? Sometimes late at night after my parents were asleep, I'd crack open our door and stand in the darkened hallway just listening. Once I pressed my ear against the cold, ancient wood of 4B's door.